Twice in legal minute?
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
Again, morning to you, wherever you are, because it is Morning Somewhere for March 12th, 2025. My name is Bernie Burns. I can't believe I used to ever miss that drop. I've got it now, Ash.
It's like clockwork. You're a machine.
They're sitting right over there, gassing me up. It's Ashley Burns. Say hi to Ashley, everybody.
Look, it's my job. It's my job. Same team.
You're actually in a good mood this morning. I really like it.
Well, yeah, I'm at a high energy moment in the morning.
Pulling off the mask for a moment. Sometimes we do say that, Ashley is like, I'm going around the house being careful and stuff. But we should also acknowledge when I'm in that kind of zone as well. And I will just say this. You have been emotionally carrying this house this week. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Same team. Last week, you were emotionally carrying the house. So I feel like we've got a good balance there.
Yeah, I was, I've been doing a lot of work lately. And when I was in Austin in February, for the big announcement, I felt like I was back in like startup mode, and for the announcement of getting the Rashid brand back. And man, it was like 8 a.m. till I felt like 10 p.m. every single day when I was there. And then the last part of my workday was just writing people and going, I'm sorry I didn't get to your thing today. Like I had to do that every single day for like 2 weeks straight.
It's so frustrating when you're having a really productive day or week or 2 weeks and you're getting things done and you're just trucking through tasks.
It's
and
cool
that's really exhilarating and that feels really good. But then at the end of the day, your to-do list got longer anyway, even though you were like at peak productivity and feeling, just like really blazing through it. That's super frustrating.
Yeah.
When no matter how well and how quickly you're doing your work, it makes more work than less work.
When we first moved here, I remember I went through and made a spreadsheet of all the projects in the house and everything we had to do. And I did weights for priority, like necessity, the size of the project, and then like our preference of whether or not we wanted to get this on like something we wanted essentially.
This was a very nerdy spreadsheet.
It was pretty nerdy spreadsheet, but it was like it was tiny little stuff, like everything from like replacing like a light switch to like this section of the roof needs help. And that was if memory serves, that was 96 projects when I made it, 96 different ones. And after 4 years, we've got it down to 113, I think. So awesome. Go us. We're working on it. Yeah. When you chip away at something and it chips back, that's tough. That's a tough thing.
Well, and there's always like stuff that comes up that's completely unforeseen.
Oh, really? Like a chicken in your bathroom suddenly?
Yes, there's a chicken downstairs in the bathroom right now. I had to put a sticky note on the door, beware of chickens, so that nobody goes in that bathroom. And it's just like, what is a chicken doing in the bathtub right now?
Can I read the text that you sent me yesterday?
Oh, yeah. Yes, go ahead.
So I was out with JD. I picked him up from the train station. He's up from university, and we were out getting something to eat. And you wrote to me, by the way, I might need your help later. And I thought, okay, that's intriguing. What's this about? I need to get a better look at the chicken, but it's possible her vent, basically her butthole, her vent is prolapsed. And I need you to hold her while I push it back in. I wrote back immediately. It's the same timestamp. I wrote back, hey, you know those married couples who never communicate and just kind of live separate lives in the same house? How do we do that? What happened, Ashley?
Well, I don't know. I never thought when you met me, you were like, hey, babe, guess what? One day you could be like inspecting a chicken's butthole, making sure that like she's healthy, or like figuring out what's wrong with taking pictures of her butthole for the internet. I would have been like, get out of here. What is wrong with you? But I will say that actually really good training for all this has been parenthood in general, because you quickly become completely desensitized to like bodily fluids and private parts. Like that's just not a thing
you've got
anymore.
No choice. Yeah, you've got no choice in the matter at all. It's just the way it is.
So now it's like, it's fine. I can clean a chicken's butt. I can take pictures and post them on the internet and go, hey, is this just swelling or is this a more serious thing?
Okay. Enough of talk about that. I'm looking up here. We have a transcription database that the members of the Patreon have access to. And I was looking up here. Congratulations, Ashley. We made it through, however, what are we like at 330 episodes now?
We have a lot of episodes.
We had never said the word prolapsed ever before. We broke our streak after 330 episodes, said that word. So congrats to us.
Look, wait till we start retelling our prolapse stories.
All right, yeah. We'll loop back around. Well, that's why we have the database, so we can never repeat this conversation ever again.
No, but we did. Yesterday we said that we were going to talk about something specific today because after Monday's episode where you were talking about pushball and all the stupid games that you play that are oddly violent, we got talking about the parachutes and those scooter board things that we would use as like a kid in gym. It took both of us down kind of a memory hole of like the weird games that we played as kids.
I found out those have a name, by the way. So a lot of people call them crab scooters.
Crab scooters.
And it did unlock a memory.
You do kind of look like that.
A lot of people in the subreddit were like, holy cow, I had forgotten about that stuff. And it was the same thing. They had them in their gym and they weren't allowed to use them except for maybe one day a year. People are recalling that they caused a lot of injuries. Like they would get their fingers run over or smashed between the scooters. And I was like, oh, I kind of remember that now too.
You know what though, is remembering all this stuff, right? Like remembering the games that we would willingly play or make up on our own as kids. I don't know how any of us made it to adulthood. Everyone got hurt playing games all the time.
Well, it's survivorship bias. The ones that didn't make it,
I guess
they don't get
true.
to get podcasts.
Like, even I was thinking like one of the like fun, wholesome, injury-free games that we would play as kids was Red Rover, where it's like the two groups of kids line up facing each other, you're holding hands, you're forming a line, and then they would Red Rover, send Bernie right over, and then you have to run as fast as you can and pick which set of kids to run between and try and break their grip on each other.
Which is like, you said it's a safe game, and I was like, do not underestimate the injury potential of a Red Rover game. That's like a shoulder dislocation waiting to happen, that game.
Yeah, I mean, although you are perhaps overestimating the overall momentum of like a 40-pound kid.
Right. They also get to pick the kid. No one ever says, send Mongo over or something like that. Nobody says that.
Mongo is appalled.
Right. But he's all the way down at the end. Goliath doesn't get called out very often in the Red Rover game. But I was looking this up and I had the database open because I was thinking about all these games I used to play as a kid. And I can tell you that on the August 13th episode of our podcast, I talked about a game I would play with my friends called Fumble Rooski, is what we called it, where you would just basically get a football and 7 kids would tackle you. And then when you got tackled, you would let go of the ball. And for some reason, another kid was motivated to pick up that ball and run with it. And then they would get tackled. And there's no points or anything like that.
Right. It's like reverse tag. Where
Right.
you're all chasing it, and it is the person with the ball.
And you try to jump on it and dogpile it. Yeah, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't understand the mentality like behind the kid who picks up the ball. And there's always the kid who picks up the ball.
Always,
right?
yeah.
Is it like if you're like riding a bull or a bucking bronco or something where it's like, you know that you're coming off and you know it's going to hurt when you do. But that 8 seconds, if you can stay on for the 8 seconds, that's the most important 8 seconds in the world.
I think it's a metaphor for the young male mind in general. It's like I've watched a string of other people fail at this, but I can do this.
It's going to be different for me.
I'm different than the rest of the rest of you. I can
My
get this
genius strategy, I will win and I will have the ball forever.
Here's my strategy. I'm going to dodge people. No one else has ever thought of that.
No one's ever thought of it.
But the subreddit kind of took off with this too, and there was a list of all the games that they made up as kids. I will go link in the link dump, but there's so many funny games in here. Like one guy, I'll just read some of the names here. One of the games, this is by Safety Pants, they would play a game called Dark, which is basically they would go in the dark in the basement and put sleeping bags over their head. Why you need to be in the dark with a sleeping bag over your head, I don't know. But then they
You
would
just got to double the dark.
Then they would jump around and quote unquote try to avoid each other, but then they would just eventually start jumping on each other. Another game they played called Insane Pain. There was a game. This is Traffic Cone wrote, my brothers and I invented this game in our backyard called Swing Ball. We had one of those suburban swing sets with a little fort and swing attached. Essentially, the game involved 3 people swinging on the swings while everyone else would kick soccer balls at them. It was basically just ways to hurt each other, and that was it. It was crazy, man. And I think about too, like even when I was in gym as a kid, we would play a game everyone played dodgeball. Like we throw balls at kids and you hit them and they're out. Our coaches in A-Leaf, Texas decided to play a different version of this called bombardment, where they would take like Nerf balls and then they would wrap them in medical tape.
What?
So they were like solid rocks and you could throw them so hard. And
What
yeah, we
kind
would play
of gym
dodgeball like
teachers
that.
you
I know, it was crazy, right? They were like the, suck it up kid, you're going to be fine, But yeah, it was such a different time too. It sounds weird to say this today, but like the days where we would play bombardment, that was the days where they would come into our PE class and they would say, all right, the boys and girls are separating, and they would put us in two separate parts of the gym, and the girls were not allowed to play bombardment, and they would
we
practice.
be doing like Foursquare or something like that.
Or practice square dancing, which was a thing in the U.S. in gym.
I remember square dancing.
Why did we have a national initiative to teach kids square dancing?
Because you can dance without the boys and the girls touching.
Oh, is that what it is?
I have no idea. I think honestly, a lot of it
there's
is
a lot
that,
of touching and a good do-si-do.
is that with square dancing or something, it's like, it's fairly easy. You go foot stomp,
Yeah.
clap, side, and you just like learn a thing and you go, all right, whoop and turn, and then you just do that over and over for the duration of the entire song, and you're like, good job, kids, you learned a pattern.
But the thing I want to hear about too, because there's a regional, this is before the internet. So this was a regional game that we had, our regional variation of it. We called it Spread Eagle. Right? Or Butts Up. That's I think the most common term for it. Or
Butts up.
Some kids called it Red Butt. And basically what it was I don't know why these spaces existed, but every town or neighborhood seemed to have like a parking lot that was next to a big wall with no windows, which was perfect for this because you would take a tennis ball and you would throw it against the wall, and then the other kids had to catch it, and if they like missed the catch, like it hit their hand and bounced away, then that person had to run as fast as they could and touch the wall before another kid picked up the ball and either threw the ball and hit the wall or threw the ball and hit the kid before that kid touched the wall. And if they got hit before they touched the wall or the wall got hit, depending on the variation, then they would go, this is the consistent thing though, they would go stand there and put their butt up, like they would bend over with their butt facing. And
That is not consistent.
Then the other kid would take the ball, and it was a tennis ball in some cases, or if you were really just vicious, it was a racket ball, and you would try to hit the other kid in the butt while they just stood there.
Or if you were your gym teacher, you would just take a Nerf ball and wrap it in electrical tape.
And you learned to bend over because it was actually way worse if you had like your hands on the wall and somebody would hit one of your fingers, like you had your hands out to the side and one of your fingers on the wall got hit by the wall. Oh, it would hurt so fucking bad.
Yeah, no, we played different variations of this game. Very different. No one where I was playing this game was bending over. You would stand against the wall and then it was basically a free shot at you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Ours was,
There were no butts involved.
You were aiming for the butt, but really what you were aiming for, if you were really good and you had a good aim, you could get them in the gooch.
Oh my God.
How did any of us survive childhood back then? It's crazy.
Oh, man.
It's really crazy, man. Really crazy. But thank you for everyone who contributed to that. That was really funny.
Stupid, weird sports.
You were, did you ever see too, it's like the stuff that people make up? There were these guys who started playing this game in their front driveway where they would take a football. This is really unlocking a memory. They would take a football and they would throw it up on the roof, right?
Okay.
There's no pain involved in this, I don't think. And like there was a plumbing vent, I remember, on the roof or something, like some kind of like metal structure, a vent of some kind. And they got points if they threw it up high enough on the roof. And then if it hit the vent and then came down, it's a football, American football, so it's tumbling in weird directions. And as it comes off the roof, you have to catch it. And you get some kind of multiplier. And then they got to the point where everyone in the neighborhood was playing it. And they got to have a cult following to where people would come and set up like a little sports announcer booth and act like it was a big tournament. Actually, it got to the point, let me look this up. It got to the point where ESPN was covering it. These like five guys just playing this game called Roof Ball.
Roof ball. Okay, I gotta look this up.
Look at this. Roof Ball Championship on ESPN. It last aired August 11th, 2024. That was about the time we were talking about Fumblerooski.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for August. Roof ball season is coming up.
Yeah, get your roof ball team in shape. Get them practicing.
Yeah, you got 6 months or so to train. No, it's not quite 6 months, but you got a couple months to be trained and get your roof ball skills at peak. You have a shot of being aired on, was ESPN the Ocho?
Oh, is that a real thing?
Yeah, no, that's a real thing. I'm looking at the Wikipedia for it right here. It's a special program block showcasing seldom seen obscure sports. It airs on the networks of ESPN Inc.
That's from Dodgeball, the movie.
Well,
That's where
funny
that
enough,
started.
they show dodgeball.
They call it the Ocho?
The Ocho. They show Pop-A-Shot, roller derby, crossnet, bowling, Quidditch, trampoline dodgeball, air hockey, darts,
Dodgeball.
cornhole, disc golf, kabaddi, omega ball. I don't even know what that is. But it
Cornhole sounds
awesome.
way worse than it is. That's just throwing beanbags at stuff. I got a buddy who plays that, like, goes all over the country playing cornhole.
It's always really weird when he tries to pick up chicks in a bar, being like, "Hey, I am so great at cornhole, you don't even know."
Want to come check out my cornhole? His best move is called the prolapse. All right, enough of that word. I don't want that word in my vocabulary anymore.
It reminds me of you remember the movie? It came out a couple years ago. There's a movie called Tag, and it was just a bunch of dudes who they'd been playing this game of tag since they were kids. And I want to say it was like 1 month out of every year they would play this crazy game. And the movie starts because a reporter turns up to report on this stupid game that these guys are playing. And I don't remember much about it. I don't think I ever saw the movie. I saw the trailer for it, and that's about as far as it went. But I've always found it like absolutely fascinating, just like the fun, dumb games that guys will play. And you should have seen when they lined up against the wall and bent over and just started like throwing stuff at each other's balls.
We could have like Spread Eagle the movie starring like Shia LaBeouf. That actually had a really good cast, that Tag movie. It had John Hamm, Ed Helms. It was one of the Avengers. It was Jeremy Renner or Chris Evans. I think it was Jeremy Renner.
No, I'm looking this up right now. Yeah, Jeremy Renner. In fact, I think he was the one who was like the all-time champion. Like no one's ever been able to tag him.
And then there's Hannibal Buress and then another dude.
The guy from New Girl. His name is Jake Johnson.
But there's a really funny video that's out there, which I think is like culturally important. Like one of the things we talk about is being on these podcasts for a long period of time. You can watch kind of culture develop over time. People will re-listen. You know, we've talked about how the first time we heard the word selfie, these fun little cultural moments. That's a fun one because if you go watch a video they did, I guess to promote the movie, they went on the Barstool Sports Pizza Review show. You know, the whole, like, you know, the rule, one bite, and then they review it.
Okay. You get like, you take one bite of pizza and then you review the pizza.
Right. It's Portnoy, Dave Portnoy doing it. And so they're just on that clearly to promote their movie and that's it. But it's like 4 or 5 A-list stars out on the street doing this goofy show, internet show. And everybody is stopping on the street to talk to Dave Portnoy and just kind of ignoring these like 5 A-listers. And it was, you can see it in their face. They're like, what the fuck is going on here? Like they had no concept of it. And you're watching them kind of learn this stuff in real time, you know? And one of the guys is a fucking Avenger, for Christ's sake.
Right.
Another guy from The Office and things. It's a fascinating video to go watch.
I think there are some, who's that really good, like fast-paced interview, the Billy on the Street guy? I think he's the like name a woman guy.
Yeah.
I think he's done a couple of videos too where he'll have like some star along with him and he'll be asking people questions like about the star and they'll be like, who?
Yeah.
What? And he's like, I'm right here.
While we're talking about famous people, did you see that Scarlett Johansson is refusing to go onto Instagram? We were talking, was it yesterday or sometime recently, about Maya Hawke, how they're like producers are now focusing a lot on social media followers?
Yeah, if I recall correctly, she was saying that if she's trying to put together a film project, a lot of producers will ask like, what is the collective follower count of your cast on social media, right? Because that's a number that they will then translate into potential audience metrics, I guess. And so it's like this very important number that you have to have is how many people follow you on social media.
And apparently even people like Scarlett Johansson get that pressure because they want her, I didn't know this, but I guess she doesn't have an Instagram account. And they want her to make one to promote this Jurassic World movie or whatever it is, Jurassic franchise.
World something. Rebirth.
Yeah. And she's saying
Jurassic World Prolapse.
I'm not doing that. Stop. It's too many times. Our database is going to get filled up with that word. But yeah, she won't do it. She's like, I'm not doing it. I think her quote was, the movie will do fine without it.
She's right.
She's right.
And you know what? Good for her because my Instagram's in a good place. It makes me happy when I go on it. Like all the stuff that I see, and I get the most amazing advice about chickens. But overall, like I'm not going to that saying I'm going to see what movie Scarlett Johansson's in so that I can go watch it.
Right.
Right. Like if her name is attached to something, it's like in the trailer and I see it and then I'll go watch it and then we're good.
Yeah. But it's, I mean, listen, Scarlett Johansson making an Instagram account would be a service to the world, but I also can't help but wonder, does having that also fulfill people's need to see you? Like when you see Scarlett Johansson, like when I saw her in the Jurassic World trailer, I was excited to see Scarlett Johansson in that Jurassic Park universe. You know what I mean? And maybe it's because I don't see her every goddamn day on Instagram, that I'm excited to see her.
Yeah. It's like, you get a little rarity.
Yeah. Maybe there's some people understand that. Like there were always actors who, like Robert De Niro and Jack Nicholson, who just famously wouldn't do interviews. It's like, I don't want people to know me as me. I want them to know me as whatever character they see me as on screen. So why do the interviews? It's also a great way artistically to get out of one of the like biggest grinds and obligations of a Hollywood career. Is
right.
All the
it's like all
stuff.
of the like having to go do the like night show interview tour circuit or whatever.
Right. Eat pizza on the street or eat hot wings nowadays.
Yeah, no, I don't do that. I'm an artist.
Yeah. And, those interviews with on Hot Ones are always fascinating because Sean Evans does these incredible deep dives.
And he started as kind of like a weird thing too, right? Like not exactly like a sport like tag, but sort of making up your own rules. I believe he started that because he was always the end of like those press junkets.
Yeah.
Right? Where the stars are like in this same space all day answering all the same questions. And he was always at the very, very end. So he thought, well, let's get weird about it. And he just started giving them hot sauce.
Yep.
And because they were also, end of the day, it wouldn't ruin them for, anyone coming after that for their interviews. And then it just built from there. And it helps that he's a great interviewer.
And then the show just sold for something like, what was it, $85 million or something like that?
Man, good for him.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, it's been around for a long time and been consistently a huge show for a long period of time. So it just sold. But bringing all these ideas together, someone we know just did a big promotional campaign for wildfire victims in California.
Yeah.
Milana, she made some, I haven't seen them, but the description that she's putting out is they're risque photos, which there's always a lot of pressure on her to do those kinds of things, And so she said, if I'm going to do this, I'll do it for a good cause, and did it for wildfire victims. I think she raised something like $250,000 in a day selling these photos.
Nice work, girl.
Isn't that incredible?
That's amazing.
And like she had a list of all that. She's always been like that though. Like always like, push causes, always trying to help people, things like that. And she was listing like where all the money went and what it bought for people and things like that in one day. That's really cool to be able to take photos and do something like that.
No, that is incredible.
Yeah.
That is incredible. Speaking of sort of current events and good causes, Bernie, there is some cause that's near and dear to your heart, which is energy, right? And I think we've been tracking this loosely, but the sort of fusion experiments that China's been doing, they just passed a new milestone for their potential future fusion generator, their artificial sun, they're calling it.
That's cool.
They just passed getting this thing to run for 1,000 seconds.
1,000 seconds they ran it. I wonder, did they shut it down on its own, or it just kind of went through its natural cycle and that was it? I'm asking you a very deep question there.
Yeah, so this is, I believe it was shut down, but this was, so here's an article from The Independent. The Chinese Academy of Sciences said its pioneering experimental nuclear reactor, dubbed the Artificial Sun, successfully ran for more than 1,000 seconds, 1,066 to be precise. That's breaking its previous record operating time of 403 seconds. So they've already more than doubled it. And I think a lot of the tricks to getting it to work is just the sheer temperature, like getting something to be stable at thousands and thousands of degrees is absolutely mental. It says it's the power output of 70,000 household microwave ovens.
Okay. All right. Well, I was busy reading this morning about the pending EU tariffs against the U.S. I'm sure they'll have wondrous effects on the stock market today and the economy in the quarters to come. But I will check that out because I'm curious about that.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that we just covered this recently and they've already doubled it is a really good sign for the steps that they're making towards this fusion, which is like, if they can get that, It's like that's like the holy grail of clean energy as far as we're aware, right?
It's so crazy because energy is such an important thing to us, and it's a very recent problem that we've had of having energy issues because we kind of created this thing about 100 years ago that has driven everything that we've done in the last century. It's also driven so many economic problems of how do we get this energy. It's crazy to think of a world that exists where we don't have to worry about energy ever. But that's the way that the world operated for billions of years outside of the 100 years in which we've been alive. You know?
It's just don't worry about
of the modern era, right? It's like we think of energy as being this incredible challenge that we have to conquer, but it's so relatively new. You know what I mean? It's something that we put upon ourselves, you know? It's just fascinating to me that we just live at this time.
Yeah, so quick correction. I remember it being like, that's a lot of degrees. It's not a couple thousand degrees. There are several hurdles in the way of creating a viable fusion reactor, including reaching temperatures exceeding 100 million degrees Celsius.
Yikes.
So yeah, I can see that being a bit of a challenge. But if they can get this going, then we won't have to worry about this ever again, I think. And that's awesome.
Also, it's like shutting it down has to be a big part of the process of establishing this technology because you want to make sure that once you start it, you can turn it off. Right. You know? I mean, that's basically what happens in a nuclear power plant meltdown, or even something as simple as a forest fire. You start a reaction with oxygen, and then getting it to stop is a huge fucking challenge. And next thing you know, your friend is putting out sexy photos and solving the problem on her own.
All by herself.
All by yourself.
All right, well, I want to also thank a couple of problem solvers today, Jason Weigel and Luke Walsh. Thank you both for sponsoring this episode of our podcast at patreon.com/morningsomewhere.
May we suggest that you celebrate your shout out with a nice game of swing ball or insane pain.
Or dark.
Or dark, why not? Get some sleeping bags and go crazy with your friends. All right, well, that does it for us today, March 12th, 2025. We'll be here to talk to you tomorrow. We hope you'll be here as well.
Bye, everybody.